show of hands quickly. How long have you been in the field of science education? And you put your hands up if it's between 1 and 10. Right. Good. And what about 11 and 20? Quite a lot of you long stayers. Excellent. Anyone more than 20? My God. I won't even guess 30. No? Yes? Wow.
I need to do quick maths.
Sure. Well, that's excellent. Well, I have to put my hand up there too, and I think you will too, yes. So we have a whole time scale here, really, from back to the 80s. And so we should get some very interesting, and Christine would definitely fit into that category too when I met her. Sorry. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with 3 perspectives on the question of has science education got better or worse or not changed overall? And we'll begin with Christine, and then we'll move on to Ed Walsh, and then we'll move to Lucy Wood. And all through, I want you to think of questions that you can ask or points to reflect your view, because we're going to then turn it over to you in the audience to see what you think. And we'll have to make that a bit shorter than we planned, but at the end of it, we'll have a show of hands and a vote on whether we think things are getting better or worse, and we'll inform the school's minister, as though he cares. Right, let's get started. Christine. So, Christine Harrison, you are a professor at King's College, and you've done loads of different jobs, I think, in the last 30x years that I've known you, and including being president of ASE. That's right?
I've been chair of ASE, not president.
Chair. Great. So we'd like, and we'd like to hear your perspective on whether science education's got better or worse or not changed.
Okay. So first of all, sorry I can't be there with you. I'm here in sunny Newmarket at my daughter's, and unfortunately she tested positive for COVID yesterday, having gone back into school for a few days this week. She's on maternity leave, but she went back to do a few keeping in touch days. So I'm here in isolation, but wishing that I could actually be there so I could see faces and see responses to sort of the ideas that are coming out. It's great being first because I don't have my ideas pinched by Ed or by Lucy, although I'm sure they may touch on some things I'm going to touch on. I would say overall, I think science education has got better. And the reason I think science education has got better is because I think teaching has got better. I think there's a greater focus on pedagogy and on trying to create things that are useful in the classroom. However, I do think there are some things that maybe are still problematic, and I want to raise those now as we're going through and talk about just 2 areas that I think, one that I think has got much better, and one that I think got worse, but is ready to sort of emerge and start to move forward. It probably has started moving forward in the last few months, but us researchers are always a few months behind you teachers catching up on things. So let's start off with the thing that I think has improved. I think that there is greater consistency in the curriculum, and I think that's a good thing, because I think we need a broad and balanced science curriculum. Because as well as producing scientists of the future who can do wonderful things, such as, the Oxford team have done with creating the vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine against COVID, we need that broad and balance there, because we don't know for our youngsters what's coming up in the future. And they have got all sorts of problems that we have caused for them, such as climate change, etc., that they are going to have to make decisions about in their everyday lives and push governments to make decisions that will then change what goes on. So I think this consistent curriculum is good. I think there are some problems with it. I think that the consistency sometimes leads to uniformity, and that's when we get problems. So at the moment I'm here in Newmarket, which is a very nice town outside Cambridge. A lot of agriculture, obviously a lot of horses around because of the actual races, etc. And I think the science that the kids should be doing here should reflect that. It should actually, as well as doing all the things we would expect, as learning about forces and learning about genetics and learning about covalent bonding, I think you need to have that science that reflects things that go on in their everyday lives. And I worry that we don't make space for that. And so national curriculum coming in 1989 brought consistency, but with it, it maybe trimmed some of the things that teachers might do that might help kids relate science to their everyday lives. But overall, I would say the consistency of the curriculum is better. An area that I think is maybe not quite so good as 20, 30 years ago is the amount of practical work we do and the type of practical work that we do. If you look at the various reports that have come out over the last sort of decade, was suggesting that possibly there was still quite a lot of practical work going on, but maybe what was going on wasn't thought out enough as how it actually related to the more theoretical parts of the science curriculum, and also in terms of the skill development of students. So I think that I would say 30 years ago, and I actually moved from school to university just over 30 years ago, I would say we did much more work then on developing practical skills, observational skills, skills to do with looking at the data and deciding, have we collected enough data? Is this data going to be valid? Although we teach students these days very much the wording to use so they understand the difference between precision and accuracy, I don't think we do that side of it quite so much. We basically, in many of the classrooms I go into, when I see practical work going on, and I've just finished a project on practical work, I see a very recipe-driven instruction type practical, where the kids go in and do something and then it's just done. Practical work is done, and then we don't relate it to what else is going on. And the big move of many people, particularly people like Robin Miller, where we're looking at trying to get a more minds-on approach to practical work, I think is not quite so good these days. And I know that people like Ed Welsh and Lucy, who's speaking after me, are starting to do some work and some research in that area. And I think it's somewhere where maybe we need to push forward with it. So I think that's my for Peneth for now. And I'll pass you back to Tony and to Ed and to Lucy.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your input.